Starting your day off with a take on Vegas you won't get anywhere else.
Hi, I'm Holly Madison, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hi, this is William Shatner, and I listen to Brian Shapiro.
Hey, this is Larry the Cable Guy, and I listen to Brian Shapiro. Why? Because I'm a good American. So is he. And if you don't listen to him, you need to pack up and leave this country.
This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
Come on, guys!
What's up, everybody? It is the Vegas Take. Glad you could join us on a Wednesday. Oh, we are jam-packed, Sharp and Shapiro. Back at you. A lot to get to, a lot to talk about today. And we have some very special guests in studio. Jamison Walsh, our hoops guru from Drive Time Sports. And, of course, Chris Wynn joining us in studio as well. I don't know where my co-host is. Hopefully he's on his way. Hopefully he'll be here because this is a pretty big show and it's a pretty big day. Normally we start out with the biggest news of the day, but it is going to be local news today, and it is huge local news. And by the way, UNLV and Michael Avenatti in the same sentence. That's right, the creepy porn lawyers, they like to call him on Fox News. I can't believe I'm mentioning them in the same sentence. I think we'll get to that in segment 2. But the big news of the day, of course, is that UNLV has hired a new basketball coach. We said yesterday, in fact, I said I believe that they would hire him by Friday. I was a few days late on that when they hired him today. TJ Otzelberger, or as I like to call him, TJ Roethlisberger. Just easier to pronounce the name. But TJ Otzelberger from South Dakota State is the new head coach of the UNLV basketball program, and we are going to get reaction from you. We are going to take your phone calls, and, of course, we're going to get reaction from Jamison and Chris. Let me just give you my perspective on this. When they hired Dave Rice, I said it right off the bat. I thought it was not a correct hire because Dave had never been a head coach before, and it was guesswork, right? It was a guess and hope type coach. It did not work out. All due respect to Dave Rice, just didn't work out. He was let go. When they hired Marvin Menzies, he was number 5, number 6, number 7 on the list. I said, I don't think it's going to work out. Why? Everyone argued with me and said, well, he had so much success in the WAC. Look at this guy getting to the NCAA tournament all the time. I said, yes, but that's the WAC. This is the Mountain West Conference's UNLV. It's a different circumstance. It didn't work out. I have the exact same reaction when it comes to this hiring. TJ Otzelberger is a better version of Marvin Menzies. I will certainly give him that. I believe he is an upgrade from Marvin Menzies. But he has only been a head coach for 3 years. And if you are going to go for a head coach that only has 3 years of experience in the Summit League of all places, then why not go after a guy with some experience? Why not go after Eric Musselman? Why not go after Larry Eustace? Why not go after Mike Miller and take a gamble with somebody like him? And these are the kind of comments that get me really angry. As UNLV president Marta Mena said, Coach Otzelberger is a rising star in coaching and a proven winner. I can give you 99% that our UNLV president had no idea who this guy was a month ago, and now all of a sudden she's saying he's a rising star in coaching. Now, she would probably never admit that, but I'm going to tell you right now, I almost guarantee you she had no idea who this guy was a month ago. The casual UNLV sports fan, if you asked them a few weeks ago, who is TJ Otzelberger, the casual fan would be like, who? I don't know who you're talking about. Is this guy going to put people in the seats? Is this guy going to excite the fan base? Look, let's be honest. Forget about his personality. Forget about his recruiting. Forget about whether you'll put people in the seats in year one. The bottom line is, can he win? I don't know. I don't know if that's going to happen. In my opinion, this is a guess and hope hire. Is it a better hire than Marvin Menzies? Yes, I'm going to give him credit for that because at least, he has, in my opinion, a better track record than Marvin Menzies. But it's a guess and hope hire. If you hired Mike Miller, you would have gotten a top 10 recruiting class immediately. And I know the guy's never called a timeout before. I get that. But it would have excited the fan base. If you hired Eric Musselman, it wouldn't have been a guess and hope hire. The guy would have flat out won here, period. And this is the kind of stuff that it gets me so angry. Reports coming out, and I mentioned this 2 weeks ago. Musselman wanted the job. Eric Musselman wanted this job. And from sources that I've heard, the reason from Francois speaking to Muss's agent was that she didn't want to hire him because of the controversy surrounding UNLV basketball rating Reno's coach. First of all, you're not rating Reno's coach. You're going after somebody who might be interested in your job. I don't care if it's Reno or it's the Lakers. Okay? If it's a better hire, give the guy an interview. And in the press conference tomorrow, when they announce the head coach, and if Francois is answering questions, I'm going to ask her that. Why didn't you give Musselman an interview? Why didn't you give Mike Miller an interview? I'm not even saying hiring them. Just give them an interview. TJ Otzelberger is 70-33 in 3 years at South Dakota State. That's a good record. He's won the conference title 2 times. That's a good record. Hasn't won an NCAA tournament game. Does that remind you of somebody? Yeah, his name is Marvin Menzies. All Marvin Menzies did was win conference championships in the WAC. And by the way, last I checked, the Summit League isn't one of the top leagues in the country. In fact, most of those teams shouldn't be playing D1 as far as I'm concerned. And look, let me end my rant by saying this. If I'm wrong, and in 2 or 3 years, if this guy gets UNLV to the NCAA tournament, even better yet, he's winning games in the NCAA tournament. If he recruits, if he does a phenomenal job, I will let everybody in the studio throw an egg at my face. I will let everybody in the studio do that. And I will admit that I was wrong because I don't have an ego like others in this town, many others in the media. I tell it like it is, and if I'm wrong, I admit it. If this guy gets the job done, and in a couple of years he's winning a lot of games, and he's at the top of the Mountain West Conference tournament and the top of the Mountain West Conference for regular season, I will admit I was wrong, and I will give all the praise in the world, not only to Otzelberger, to his staff, to UNLV, to Francois, to everybody, and I'll say I was wrong. But I don't think I'm wrong. I didn't think I was wrong when they hired Dave Rice. I wasn't wrong. I didn't think they were wrong. I didn't think I was wrong when they hired Marvin Menzies. I wasn't wrong. And I don't think I'm wrong when it comes to this hire. I think it is, I don't even want to say it's a horrible hire as much as there could have been a lot of better hires out there. I think that's the best way I could describe it. All right, guys, I said my piece. That was my monologue. Jamison Walsh from Drive Time Sports, Chris Wynn in studio. I want to get your thoughts on that, and we'll also take some calls here in just a few minutes. Jamison, how do you feel about this? And give me your reaction to my monologue there. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a lot going on there. However, I don't think it was as bad as a hire as everyone's thinking. I mean, it's not the best hire, but it's not like doomsday. Doomsday would have been Steve Alford at like $3 million. That would have been really bad because now you would have tapped the funds, and also you would have got a coach that's subpar. Don't get me wrong. I think there's other guys that they at least should have interviewed. I mean, whenever you have a job open, you want to interview and get as many candidates as possible. So if that means interviewing Eric Musselman, Mike Miller, whomever else is available, you want to at least interview them. The fact that they weren't interviewed is a problem, and the kind of support Mike Miller got, it's kind of weird that he didn't at least get an interview because he was getting support from everyone, from Bryce Harper, from politicians, like from everyone in the city. So it was very odd that he didn't get an interview. However, I don't think that TJ Otzelberger is a bad coach. I think he's a young up-and-coming guy. He's 41. This is 3 years at South Dakota State. He's not the worst guy possible. However, I'm going to bring something up. Chris Beard, when he was at University of Arkansas Little Rock, he didn't have a lot of head coaching experience either, and he turned out to be pretty damn good. So I kind of caution people to kind of be careful about the experience because it's not really about experience. It's what you're going to do as your next spot. Because there's a lot of coaches that have good experience that would be horrible in this job. So I think the key is where is he at right now in his career? Is he progressing or is he on the down end? Marvin Menzies, when he got hired, he's kind of on the down end. That's why I didn't really like the hire. He's on the other side of his prime. This guy seems to be on the uptick, and that should be good for the program.
Should.
Yeah, should.
You hope so. You would hope so. Those are the words I'm using. Hoping, guessing. I don't necessarily disagree with what you said, and I don't necessarily disagree that just because you don't have a ton of head coaching experience, you can't succeed, which is why I was a big fan of Mike Miller getting this job. I agree, but when you think of those other names that I brought out, and they don't even get interviews. To me, it is nonsense.
It's negligence.
Yeah, it is absolute negligence. You are absolutely right. And I'll tell you why I think, in my opinion, Francois made this hire. Because I think it was the safe play for her, because I think she is out for her own interest. That's what I think. I don't think she wants to be here much longer.
But if that was the case, she would have hired Mike Miller and it would not, left then.
You would think so, but here's the thing. Here's the difference between her and Tina Kunzer-Murphy. See, Tina Kunzer-Murphy, and by the way, we have Jim Livengood coming up, the former UNLV athletic director, so that's going to be interesting. He'll be coming up in hour number 2. We'll get his take on that. But one thing about Tina Kunzer-Murphy is she listened to everybody. Now, that you could say that was bad or good. She listened to the boosters. She listens to the fans. Everyone was in her ear, right? But she listened. I don't think Francois listened to really anybody but her own voice. I don't think she wasn't going to be bullied into this. And you know what? That again, there's positives and negatives to that, but I don't think she listened to the fans. I don't think she listened to the boosters. She had her mindset on a young, up-and-coming coach. And let's talk about that, Chris Wynn.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that terminology, up and coming. This
Yes.
man is 42 years old. What do you think about that?
Well, first of all, I want to address what what Jameson said with respect to, it's not the worst hire. When we're starting out the dialogue and we're saying things like it's not the worst, and it could have been much more horrible, or it was not the most horrible hire. That's not necessarily the kind of standard that you want to begin the conversation on. But that being said, yeah, there's been a lot of talking about positive things with respect to Coach TJ Otz here in the last couple of days, and they pointed out a lot of the positive aspects, and there's no question. He has positive aspects to him, whether it be that he's a people person, whether it be that he is considered a quality recruiter, and those things are all fine and good. The problem being, though, is that you have to judge on what he actually has done, in my opinion, as a head coach and where it's been. Okay, and we're making distinctions about the programs that he's been at as if they're these high quality programs that are producing all types of success, right? All kinds of success. And what I'm speaking about, I'm talking about programs like Iowa State, okay? I'm talking about programs like Washington, all right? And look, yes, Washington is at a Power 5 school, and it's a big-time program. Iowa State, it's a Power 5 conference, okay? And it's a pro, but these programs, they're not considered the cream of the crop of college basketball, right?
No,
we're not talking about
chance.
We're not talking about programs at Iowa State and Washington that have won either Pac-12 or in Iowa State's case, Big 12 championships left and right. We're not talking about Iowa. When's the last time Iowa State was relevant as far as a tournament team? Mm-hmm. I'm telling you when. It was when Larry Eustachy was there and Marcus Fizer was their best player. That's the last time Iowa State really was relevant.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Okay, so look, we have a case of two things here. We have people, fans, media, whatever, analysts, they want to have a glass half full approach, and then we have others who want to have a glass half empty approach. So
no, I don't even.
Myself,
I don't even see it that way, though. I see it. No, I don't. I'll tell you the way I see it. I see it as being very, very simple. Okay, UNLV has screwed up time and time again with a little bit of bad luck. Okay, the Beard hire was bad luck. That was a great hire, and it just didn't work out. It was bad luck for UNLV. But UNLV has screwed themselves with bad decision after bad decision after bad decision. I believe this is a bad decision. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I hope in 2 years from now, or maybe even next year, we could say, wow, this guy's done a phenomenal job. He's turning the program around. I don't see that happening. I'm going to open up the phone lines right now. What do you guys think about this UNLV hire? Am I wrong? Are all three of us wrong here? All four of us now. My co-host has arrived.
Yes.
Thank you,
I'm in the building.
Thank you, Mr. Sharp. It's a full studio in here. We got Jim Live and Good coming up in hour number 2, so that's going to be a lot of fun. And a good friend of the program, John Bruhagen, will be joining us as well, former high school basketball coach. I know he's going to have some interesting opinions when it comes to this hire as well. I'll open up the phone lines at 257-5396. Again, that number to call, 702-257-5396. We want to hear from you, the fans, because your opinions do matter. Even if you disagree with me, I want to hear from you. And we didn't hear yet from our co-host who just arrived a little bit out of breath. So, JD, what are your thoughts on this hire?
I am a little winded. So you don't give Muss an interview, but you pay this guy from South Dakota State, and the Summit's probably a top 3 worst conference in the country. You pay him more than Muss is getting paid. And now this guy is now the top paid coach in the Mountain West Conference. How insane is that?
Yeah, and I have to give credit to Kevin Fidler, K-Fids on Twitter. I was reading a little bit of the information that he had as far as Musselman's reaction to this. Not happy. Not a happy camper. Again, that number, 257-5396, is the number to call. We're talking UNLV basketball. What do you guys think about this hire? Let's go to Gary. Gary, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you? Have we lost Gary? Uh-oh, more issues with the phone lines. Let's go to Kelly. Kelly, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. Kelly, how are you? Kelly, are you there? Oh, we just lost Kelly, too. All right, well, there's some issues with our phone lines. Well, hopefully we'll get those taken care of. Nothing new there. We seem to have issues with the phone lines all week long. But anyway, we're talking about the new UNLV basketball hire of TJ Otzelberger. And as we mentioned, record pretty good, right? 70-33. I just think he's the wrong guy for the job.
And I got to highlight a point you made, too, by the way, Shap. Okay, you pointed out, 2 weeks ago, even people that follow college basketball, I'm sure a lot of people that cover college basketball did not know his name, did not know who he was. Now, we of course, might have been aware, as Jameson pointed out to me before the show, of South Dakota State's basketball program. But it's not like when you're thinking of all the pieces, all the possible candidates in this UNLV basketball coaching search, his name was not one of them, okay? He was not mentioned. And then all of a sudden here in the past week, just because they made the decision, now he's going to be the head coach, we're supposed to all be on board and say, oh, yeah, it's a perfect fit. It's a perfect hire. It makes perfect sense to bring this guy in and be the guy. I know it's over. Let me put it this way. It's overly optimistic, in my opinion.
I will say this. You mentioned Chris Beard, and you compared Chris Beard. Chris Beard has always had very good defensive teams. South Dakota State is not a good defensive team.
I agree.
This guy is not going to be a great defensive coach.
No, I agree.
He's going to shoot a lot of threes. He's going to play very fast-paced offense, but a lot of teams are going to score a lot of points against UNLV.
Mm-hmm.
JD, you say not very good. You could say horrendous, terrible.
I'll tell you what else.
Team,
I'll tell you what else
right?
is horrendous. Our phone lines, because we've had full phone lines, and I apologize to all of our callers. We have full phone lines since I gave out the number, and for whatever reason, our phone lines are not working. Like, none of the lines are working now. So really, really awesome.
And one very important thing about defense, good defense is travel.
Yeah.
Teams that play good defense can win on the road or at home. Teams that play good offense usually win at home. Would you agree with that, Jameson?
To an extent. This is a new era, though. People gotta understand this is a totally different era of basketball. That's kind of a different way of thinking. Now it's all about pace and space and shooting a bunch of threes. That's the new age of basketball. That's what we're going towards. So I understand what you guys are saying, but I don't think it's as bad as the hire as everyone's thinking. Everyone's thinking like the world's ending. I understand that people are upset that their candidate didn't get the job, but I don't think this is the worst thing that could have happened. And I think a lot of people kind of need to take a deep breath. He did get a lot of credit for what happened at Iowa State. And, of course, you guys got to understand, Iowa State's in a conference where a team won it 16 straight years.
Right.
So they won the last 4 out of the last 6 Big 12 conference tournaments, which is really good. Like, that's something that doesn't get talked about as much. And from what I've heard, like, I don't know how much about Iowa State basketball. I can't speak on it like that. But from everything I've heard, he's been the guy responsible for a lot of their success over the last 7 or 8 years.
Yeah. And look, I agree with you, Jameson. I don't think it's a sky is falling type of issue, but I do think there's an issue with respect to this town at this time in the sports landscape, right? And that's a very real thing when you talk about the tug for the disposable dollar in this city. When you've got the Las Vegas Raiders coming, when you have the Vegas Golden Knights on the scene, it's something that they're going to have to deal with, a possibility of an NBA franchise being in Las Vegas in 5 years or so. I mean, that's something that's very real. So I'm not saying that it is doomsday, but I'm saying that the clock is ticking with respect to this town and what the sports landscape is, and the Rebels need to try to maintain relevancy. And I don't know. There's a lot of people out there that cover UNLV or are UNLV fans saying, "Oh, you know what? Doesn't matter if they start winning again. Everybody will show up." Yeah, I'm not so sure.
Nah.
Okay, I mean, I think the landscape is going to change, and UNLV is going to have to do something drastic to make sure that they're still relevant in that.
Let me just give out this message again one more time. I apologize for all of you that are calling in trying to be a part of this. We have had full phone lines since I gave out the number, but for whatever reason we're having technical problems, and none of our phone lines are working. So I apologize for that. Hang tight with us. Every single day on this show, we love taking your calls. It's actually a huge part of our show, so this is obviously a huge issue. We will get to it. We will try to figure out what is going on, and we will take your calls as soon as we can. So give us a few minutes here. We're going to try to figure out what's going on with the phone lines. With that being said, I've been very, very consistent when it comes to UNLV basketball. I try to be as honest as I can. And again, I just don't think this is the right hire. I don't think this is the right guy for the job. I've been very consistent with that opinion over the course of the last 24 hours, whether it be social media or on the air. If you want to be nothing but positive and you think this is a huge win for UNLV and it's a slam dunk, that's fine. You can feel that way. That I don't have a problem with that. But what I do have a problem with is what Jameson said. Why didn't you interview Mike Miller? Why didn't you interview Eric Musselman? That's an issue. Why didn't you give these guys a chance, an opportunity? The fact that you don't give those guys an interview, to me, spells complete incompetence. Am I wrong thinking that, guys?
Especially when both of the – well, I know Mike Miller for a fact, pretty much begged for an interview. He went to everyone he knew in this city around the job, how he wanted to describe it, and pretty much said, hey, I just want an interview. That's all I need is an interview. Not anything else, just an interview. If I get an interview, I'll take my chances from there. And they couldn't even give him that. And that's what was kind of weird. Like, I don't mind the hire so much. I mind the process of it all. The process doesn't make any sense at all. And to me, that's a disservice to the program, and it's a disservice to the city, because the city, when UNLV's rocking and rolling, this city does support the team thick and thin. Last several years, it hasn't been that way. but you have to do your due diligence. And in my opinion, they didn't do that this time around.
Yeah, I agree.
The city clearly wanted Mike Miller, and it just seems kind of like a big FU to the UNLV fan base by Desiree Reed-Francois.
I agree with you. I don't know if I'd say FU, but I don't know if I'd describe it that way. But I think let me put it to you this way: I think there's some. You guys tell me if you agree or not. I think there's some ego involved. I think there's a lot of ego involved, and I think I'm going to do what I want to do,
right.
and nobody is going to influence
she
me.
She didn't want to be pushed around.
How the hell does he get $1.4 million? Like, I'm serious. Like,
how does he become the highest paid coach?
That's even more crazy. Who's his agent? Who's her agent?
Yeah, that's
because
crazy.
That doesn't make sense.
And you got to believe that another certain coach at a prominent program in the Mountain West can't be too happy with the fact that this coach comes in with 2 years or 3 years of head coaching experience, and now he's the highest paid coach in the Mountain West with basically no credentials to back him up. And don't try to come at me with he won two Summit League titles. Okay,
Hey, Chris,
1.5 is
he
fine.
also had Mike Dahm, who came into college at 6'7", grew 2 inches, and was by far the best player in the league. He didn't even recruit this guy, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So it is interesting, but I'll tell you, there's no question that the rubber's going to meet the road. It's not going to be about. They talk about the positives being, him as a recruiter. Let me tell you something. It's a lot different, in the Mountain West Conference than it is in the Summit League. And to your point, JD, we brought up, the great player that he had there. We'll see what if he has the bones to make it as a recruiter here. Now, there's of course is the recruiting job that he did at Washington, getting
under Lorenzo Moreau.
Yeah, but he did get in defense of him, he did get Marquise Chris out of Sacramento, right? And Marquise Chris was I think he was the number 8 pick in the draft,
That's
right?
Correct.
The NBA draft. So he's got a track record there, but we'll see.
Let me give out this number. It feels like we're doing college radio today. We only have one line that's available to go on the air, which is absolutely completely ridiculous. This is a clown show. Well, not you guys, just the fact that we don't have phone lines working right. Yeah. I'm going to give out this number. We have one line that is working correctly, but it is a different number. So let me give out that number. It's sort of a first come, first serve. So we have one line that's working. Let's hope. Anyway, here's the number. 739-7009. Again, if you want to give us a call, we do have one line that is working. Our other phone lines are not working properly, and I apologize for that inconvenience because we rely on phone calls every day, and we enjoy taking your calls. Give us a call on that number. I will give it out one more time. 739-7009 is the number to call. 739-7009, and we will take your calls in regards to this matter of UNLV basketball and what I consider it to be not the right hire, not a good hire. And I mean, I'm trying to be as calm as possible. My monologue was maybe it was a little bit over the top, but I don't think it was. I'm stating my what I consider facts and opinions together, and I just think it was the wrong hire. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope 2 years from now I'm wrong.
He does have another player, David Jenkins, who's a 6'2", 200-pound sophomore who averaged 19 points a game from Tacoma, Washington, who will probably come with him. Right, Jameson?
More than likely, yes.
So that's a positive.
Here's the thing: we need to know who's going to have on the staff. Yeah. That's the key. As a coach, you're only as good as your staff. If he gets Dave Grace is out there. David Grace is the old UCLA assistant that was there with Alford, who pretty much got all the NBA players basically. All
right, I got some good news, guys. Jameson, I believe our phone lines are working at 257-5396. Again, 702-257-5396. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, thanks for calling in. How are you?
What's up, Kevin?
What's up, bud? How you doing?
Doing good, Kev. What's on your mind?
I just call, obviously the coaching decision's kind of big. It's kind of a big news today. I think it might be a little milky toast as far as excitement's concerned. But obviously, between that and then obviously the Musselman stuff is kind of a big deal because it seems like there's a changing of the guard in the in-state rivalry. I think, one program might be kind of heading back to reality and one program has the potential at least.
Very good point, Kevin. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to promise you something, okay? At the press conference tomorrow, if they let me in the building, which I would assume they will, they won't take me out in handcuffs. I am going to ask Francois this question. I am going to ask her, number one, is it true that players went and spoke to you and said in support of Mike Miller? And number two, why didn't you give Mike Miller an interview? And number three, why didn't you give Eric Musselman an interview? I promise you, Kevin, I'm going to ask those questions tomorrow. And if she doesn't like the question, well, tough cookie. I don't care.
Very good. She's got to answer some questions. I mean, they kept so much radio silence during this process.
I agree.
I mean, we didn't get as little as an update. And I understand the need for silence, as far as not embarrassing the program every time you maybe take a shot and someone denies you.
Right.
But you still got to give you still got to kind of keep at least people give us a pulse at least. Say, hey, we're on our way.
Mm-hmm.
Things are in place. We are interviewing, candidates. We got nothing.
Yeah,
and
we got nothing.
When you leave kids to the, kids to tell stories, you're going to tell nightmare stories. You're going to start storytelling, and everything starts kind of expanding out there, and it's a worse look. So I think that it'll be finally nice to finally get some clarity as to what she did, why she did it, what was her purpose, and how she went about things.
I could not agree with you more, Kevin, and I hope we get those answers. Thank you, by the way, for the call. I appreciate it.
And I'll tell you what's embarrassing. Musselman beats UNLV by 15 plus this year. Tries or wants the job, lobbies for the job behind the scenes, and then you hire. You don't even give him an interview. You hire somebody else and you pay him more. How does that work?
That's a valid question. I don't know the answer to that.
I mean,
I agree.
that is embarrassing from a negotiation standpoint, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. No, I couldn't agree with you more. Let's take a quick phone call before we go to break. Kelly, unfortunately, I only got about a minute here. Kelly, what's on your mind? Good to hear from you.
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear. I apologize about all the call. Our lines are working now, Kelly. I appreciate your patience. Go ahead.
Okay, two things. One, I just want to know how you feel about the new hire. You're being very cryptic on the radio.
He's always wishy-washy, right, Kelly? He doesn't just go one way or the other.
I think you know how I feel,
So hard
Kelly.
for the listener to determine.
Yes.
But in all seriousness, I know you were going to do that rally, and then the UNLV said, hey, no, because it'll affect,
Kelly, can I stop? Kelly, I mean this sincerely. I want you to wait on hold because I do not want to interrupt you this time. That's a valid question.
Okay.
Can you wait on
Wait
hold?
on hold.
So I give you some, and everyone else, Gary, Scott, Fernando, Jody, everybody waiting on hold. I promise you I will take your call when we come back. You are listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN, and the number to call, 257-5396. Again, 257-5396. Our phone lines are working. It's a miracle. We'll be back right after this. All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. We got Jameson Walsh from Drive Time Sports, of course, Mr. Sharp and C-Win in studio. And we're taking your calls right now. We appreciate your patience. Our phone lines are working again, everybody, 257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 257-5396, talking a little Rebel Hoops. And this new hire that I guess doesn't have the stamp of approval from all four people in the studio. We want to know what you guys think out there. And let's go to Kelly, who has been waiting patiently on hold. Kelly, thank you for your patience. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm a little fired up today. The phone lines aren't working. I'm not happy with the coach that they hired. Other than that, I'm doing great.
All right. So my question was, before the announcement, you were doing this thing on Twitter.
Correct.
And social media, and you were like, hey, we're going to hold a rally.
Right.
And then, the next day, you were like, okay, I was told that, don't do the rally because it can affect the hiring, the guy we're going to hire.
Right.
And so my question is, knowing now who they hired,
yes,
would you have done the rally anyway?
It's a good question, and I'm going to tell you, there's a few people that I trust very much that are very close to UNLV, and I heard one thing from one person, one thing from another. One person told me they already know who they're going to hire, and it's almost a done deal. And this person told me not to put it on Twitter, not to put it on social media, don't talk about it on radio. I believed him. Obviously, if we would have had egg on our face if we do the rally, and then an hour later they announce they're hiring somebody else. The other person told me don't do it because it could have an opposite effect. And they tried doing that with Stacey Augmon. And I said, you know what, I'm going to listen to these people because these are very good friends and very good sources of mine that are connected. So, Kelly, hope that answers your question. Hey, Kelly, good to hear from you. Thanks for waiting patiently. Really do appreciate it. Good to hear from you. 257-5396, the number to call, 257-5396. Let's go to Gary. Gary, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
Hey, you're a waste of IQ.
I'm a what?
What?
A waste of IQ.
What does that mean?
Gary, trying to say he has too much IQ?
Everything about basketball and nothing important.
Well, what do you mean, Gary? This is actually
a big day.
This is actually pretty important to a lot of people here at UNLV. It's also very important to people that are investing a lot of money into the university, and it's important to students. It's important to the college basketball spectrum. I completely disagree with you.
Okay, then you get deep about how it's important to education and everything else.
Okay, fair
I
enough.
want to talk to you about something.
No,
I'm shaking you down.
No, you can't shake me down, Gary. I think you should shake the bottle that's in your hand and give us a call again tomorrow. How about that? 257-5396.
Shap, not necessarily a day where you can say and downplay it and say, oh, yeah, it's not really that important. It's a big deal.
Of course
New
it's
head
important.
coach coming in.
Come on.
At UNLV.
I think alcohol he's drinking is more important to him than the UNLV coach. I think that's Gary's problem. Fernando, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. How are you?
I'm good, Fast. Hey, I love the new hire. He's young. He's 41.
41's not young.
41's young for a coach?
Many programs, college level, and I'm gonna ride out with him. I'm gonna give him a chance. 4 or 5 years, as long as it takes. And if he wins a Mountain West title tournament within 3 to 4 years, you got to take us to Sapphire for drinks.
Let me ask you a question. Did you say the same thing about Marvin Menzies when they hired him?
Who?
Marvin Menzies. Did you say the same thing about him?
That ship is gone.
I know the ship is gone, but when they hired him, be honest with me. Be intellectually honest. Did you say the same thing?
Yes.
Okay, well, you were wrong, weren't you, Fernando? Did you say the same thing about Dave Rice?
Okay, I was wrong.
What about Dave Rice? What'd you say about Dave Rice when Lon Kruger left town?
Same thing, but I was wrong.
So you're 0 for 2 at the line, and now you're telling me you're trying to go 1 for 3.
Well, third time is a charm, Brian.
I'm going to start off fresh, new energy.
All right, fair enough.
I'm going to ride the ship, and
all right, I understand.
I hope he wins, and I hope you're wrong.
I hope I'm wrong too. Fernando, I agree with almost everything you just said. Okay, I hope I'm wrong too. I like the energy. I like the fact you're supporting the guy. I don't see anything wrong with what you said. The only thing you said that I disagree with is that he's young.
Yes.
41 years old is not necessarily young. Jameson, is that?
I would say so.
I would disagree too.
I wouldn't say necessarily it's young, but I will say it really depends on experience in the game, because there's some guys who start coaching at 35. So it just depends on your coaching career. Age is really not the big deal here. It's more how many years have you been a coach. I think he's a young coach. Necessarily, I think age-wise he fits right, and he's on the younger side, but he's not necessarily young age-wise coach. But I think in terms of experience, he's a young coach.
He's not necessarily a whippersnapper.
Right.
I don't think he's a young coach. And to your point, Jameson, you just brought it up. Guys that have been coaching a lot of years. He's been coaching in college basketball since his early 20s.
Right.
So we're talking about going on 20 years almost that he's been a coach in the college game. Now, of course, he's been an assistant at many programs, whether they be large or small. But and he's young if you consider being a head coach, obviously, because he's only coached for 3 years. Yeah. But 41 years old, kind of to make a comparison. Yeah. Mike Miller is 3 years younger than he is.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And in my estimation, I think Mike Miller would be considered more of a quote unquote young coach.
Yeah, and
than someone.
And
like
let's
this.
be clear here: everyone's entitled to their opinion, and that's fine. But with that being said, you don't have a lot of credibility if you were that same guy. With all due respect to Fernando, that thought Dave Rice was a good hire or thought Marvin Menzies was a good hire. You don't have a lot of credibility. And guess what? That's 90% of the media in this town that were drinking the Kool-Aid. Let's go to Jody. Jody, thanks for calling into the Vegas Take. Thank you for your patience. How are you? And we have lost Judy. Well, what a surprise. Another problem with our phone line. Wow, what a shocker. Let's 257-5396. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Marge. Marge, thanks for calling in. How are you?
You're welcome. So I'm on the air, which is good.
Yeah. We've had some issues with the phone line.
Yeah. Jameson mentioned something about the process, and you're going to that press conference tomorrow. So one thing if I was there, I guess I'd be curious about, how long was she starting to think about making this change? When did she put the list of candidates together? When did the interview process start? And maybe there was a recruitment firm in the background that nobody knew about. Those seem to be some unanswered questions that we're all dealing with here.
Jameson, why don't you address that?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. Usually these changes happen. Usually they happen a couple months before the season ends. As we all know, there was a lot of politicking for this job well before the final game of the Mountain West Conference Tournament for UNLV. There was guys talking about this job as early as like November, December. Mm-hmm. So this was in the makings. If they didn't do anything drastic this season, this was going to happen. And as we saw, the way they didn't have any signature win this year, they got better as a team, but they didn't have that signature win. Nothing that you can go sell the future on. And once that happened, the writing was kind of on the wall. Now going forward, here's the thing: you give Dave Rice 4.5 years. You gave Menzies 3. What do you give this guy? Like, that's going to be the thing, because if you're looking on paper if he doesn't get things done in 3 years, you're in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
I think 3 tops. You can't give somebody more than 3 years, especially when you're paying this guy that kind of money, Marge.
Yeah, but for me, it's her management style, and when did you start actually thinking seriously about the list and doing it?
I don't think we're ever going to get an honest answer from her on that, because I don't think she's going to tell us. Let me rephrase that. I think she's going to say, nope. Well, when we fired Marvin Menzies, we started the search. That's what she's going to say. She's not going to admit anything. But I think that is a very valid question, Marge, and it's a question I would like answered as well.
All right. If you get the answer, let me know.
I will. Thank you so much for the call. We appreciate it. 257-5396 is the number to call. Again, 702-257-5396. I promise you our phones are sort of working. So give us a call and let us know what you think, JD, before I take another phone call. What?
So we have Mark Anderson on the show last night, Mr. UNLV. He says that if Mike Miller was hired head coach, that about 15,000 would attend the first game.
Which is phenomenal.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm guessing, and I want to get Chris's and Jameson's thoughts on this, I'm guessing that about 5,000 attend the first game next year.
What do you guys think?
It's an interesting question with respect to the attendance, because we have no idea. It's not going to be 15,000. I know that.
Right.
And there's no question, guys. As all you can talk about all the good points with Coach TJ Otz. Okay, there's no question that Mike Miller is a bigger name. He's somebody that would have brought in higher level players quicker than TJ will, right? And that's an expectation we can have, because there's the thought is that with Mike Miller, you could have brought in 4- and 5-star guys, and I'm interested to hear Jameson's thought on this,
right?
As opposed to TJ, who has a record of coaching up guys who are 3 and maybe 4-star guys. So there's no doubt that I think initially from the outset the talent would have been better with Mike Miller. But the discussion, of course, goes to other things besides coaching, besides the big name. When you're talking about Mike Miller, it goes to his college degree. It goes to, his hireability, that kind of thing. So that was a sticking point, and I don't necessarily agree with why it was. I think that there's ways you could have made it work. There's ways you could have got Mike Miller here to Las Vegas and to UNLV, and I don't think those options were explored enough.
No, I agree 1,000%. The difference between the Mike Miller and TJ Otzelberger is this. Mike Miller had built-in equity already.
Yeah.
People, they were waiting for him. They know who he is. 15,000 would have been the stands, probably even more. And what he brings, he's close friends with LeBron. He's a Nike guy. He's a guy that no one has a bad word to say about. Yeah. That's the one thing. If you go around the NBA, go around circles, no one has a bad thing to say about. This guy, we don't know. It's a bit of unknown, so it's going to be very interesting to see. He's going to have to build our trust.
Speaking of Nike, we're going to get to that in a few minutes here. 257-5396, the number to call. Again, 257-5396. Let's go to John. John, thanks for calling in, waiting patiently on hold. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for taking my call.
Sure. What's on your mind, John?
Well, I am excited about the guy, but this is my disappointment. I went from, a Rick Pitino, a Thad Matta, to maybe this Oates guy, and it sounds like finally for the first time in Rebel history, we're going to have some money to pay a coach.
Right.
And then it comes down to thinking where, we don't have a money to get an Oates from Buffalo or to get these guys. And I don't know if we ever really had the money, but it seems like if we had $2.8 million, we could have gotten one of these big names. I mean, 5 years at $2.8 million, and you can't get a guy from Buffalo. And I can't believe that this guy was even ever on the radar. South Dakota. Do you think this guy was ever on her radar?
That is such a good point, John, and we've been talking about that, and I would say no until 3 or 4 coaches said no. Then all of a sudden it got on her. Now, it's speculation, but certainly if he was number 1 on the list, we would have had him as the coach, in my opinion, a week ago. Okay, but the problem is when a few coaches say no, like a guy like a Mike Rhodes says no, then you have to move on, or a guy like Oates says no. And you make a good point, by the way, John, about the money situation, because it does appear that they did have the money. They did have the money. And, I'm going to Jim Livengood, the former UNLV athletic director, is going to be joining us here in about 10 minutes or so. And if you recall, Lon Kruger asked for a little bit more money, and it was Jim Livengood, with respect to him, who said, basically, no, we're not going to pay you more money. And UNLV suffered for that. You're right. They finally have the money to hire a coach, and this is the guy they go after, and it's just mind-boggling to me, John. It really is.
It totally is. I think there's a lot of potential, but the one problem I have with this guy, he's not linked to any other job opening, just like Marvin. No one else seems to want the guy.
Yeah, that is such. I am so glad you mentioned that, and we haven't even discussed that. Yeah, has he been? And by the way, John, thank you for the call.
They mentioned
Very
him
good call.
as a rising star, but is he a hot commodity?
Yeah, if he's such a rising star, then why didn't we hear him, searching for other jobs?
Not only that, but there's an article last year where he signed a 5-year deal with South Dakota State last year. Talks about building a great thing with this program, and then he's gone the next year.
So hold on. Oates signed a deal last week, and he's at Alabama right now.
Yeah.
So that whole signing a deal, you're doing that for security. Signing a deal in college is way, way different than in other professions because guys do that for security. But we all know college coaches, they sign one deal 1 week and they're gone the next.
This guy was making $350,000 a year. Okay, $350,000.
We need to check who the agent is. Who's his agent? Who's our AD's agent?
And we're using words like rising stars. I think rising stars. I think of when Shaka Smart, of course, was at VCU and then got hired at Texas. I think of Mike White, of course, who was started out. I believe it was at Texas Arlington, right? And then he moved to Ole Miss and then ended up at Florida. That's what I think of as a rising star. Early to mid 30s guy, right? Who is going to be coveted by Power 5 programs. I didn't realize Coach TJ, no disrespect,
from the Summit League,
was one of those guys that we're talking about in the mix of a rising star.
It's sensationalizing a situation like the media's been like specific members of the media have been doing all year long.
You mean some of those members of the media that I have talked about on the air?
Absolutely.
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about. But
that's what UNLV's president did.
You're right,
by saying that.
I agree. Yep. By the way, when you use the term rising star, I think of when I watched Steph Curry play in the NBA Summer League. When I think of rising star, I saw Kevin Durant play in the Summer League. I said, "Wow, that guy is a rising star." Okay, this guy. And look, if he turns things around, great. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Let's take another phone call at 257-5396. Again, 702-257-5396.
When I think rising star, I think Johnny Dawkins.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go.
UCF, yes.
From UCF.
Fantastic coach. He's done a phenomenal job.
Great
I agree.
bring up there.
Let's go to Jay. Jay, thanks for calling into the we lost Jay. Oh, wow, another issue with our phone line. That hasn't happened at all this hour. 257-5396. Again, the number to call, 702-257-5396. Quickly, Jameson, I want to ask you this. Am I wrong with this rising star? I mean, we got JD's point. We got Chris's point. You got my point.
Here's the thing. There's like 330 coaches in the country. There is going to be some coaches that we just overlook. And I think that when you think of rising stars or guys that get overlooked, there's a lot of good coaches out there. I'll give you one name, Ron Hunter. He was at Georgia State. He just got to Tulane. He's a guy that's been around for years. He's a hell of a coach. But, it's just a lot of coaches get overlooked. And I think that this hire is not as bad as the Twitter people think and a lot of people around town are. At the same time, he doesn't have any built-in equity like other coaches would have had, like a Musselman or Mike Miller.
I want to also talk to you guys about Michael Avenatti. Of course, as we know him as the creepy porn lawyer, according to Fox News, right? Of course, the reason why they called him that is because he represented Stormy Daniels in the Donald Trump situation. I never thought I would say this on the air, but right after our show, Michael Avenatti takes to Twitter, and yes, he tweets about UNLV basketball. I just can't believe he's saying that.
Here's
the tweet. Here's the tweet. It was tweeted last night, and as you know, Avenatti's involved in this FBI situation where with Nike, where he went into Nike and tried to extort them for some money because he has the goods on apparently a lot of colleges and a lot of people, specific people that paid off players. This is what he tweets, quote, "What's the real reason McCoy, a 5-star recruit, went to struggling UNLV? What does Sean Manning, his guardian, know about it?" Michael Avenatti talking about Mr. McCoy, who was a one-and-done player who, under Marvin Menzies, few seasons ago. When I saw that tweet, I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah, it was attached to an article that was 2 years old, and people who follow basketball kind of know what was going on. I mean, Sean Manning got hired as a UNLV staff member. Also, remember Anthony Smith, I believe it was. He was also attached to that as well. He was a part of the package. And, he played at UNLV for half a season. Brandon came for a year. It didn't work out. But to me, that's old news. We'll see what happens if there's any proof of any wrongdoings. But that whole arrangement, there's nothing illegal with the arrangement that took place. So people have to understand that. This guy, first of all, the stunt he tried to pull on Monday was really bad. You're trying to shake down Nike? Come on, man.
Probably not a good idea, especially if you're an attorney. You should know better.
Right.
Obviously, people were recording those conversations. Here's the problem that UNLV has. And again, we don't know 100% what happened here, but I have heard a lot of rumors, allegedly. Let me also say that Marvin Menzies threatened legal action against me when I was talking on the air about possible recruiting violations. Well, who's going to have egg on their face if this is true? But with that being said,
at my house on a holiday.
That's true. Menzies called me at your place. That's true. Listen, UNLV's in a lot of trouble, and here's why. Avenatti, whatever information he has, he's going to be squealing and yelling at the top of his lungs because he is going to cooperate. The reason being he doesn't want to go to jail, and he faces up to 50 years behind bars. And when he does, I believe, Jameson, JD, Chris, I believe it's pretty credible. I think this information that he has is very credible.
We've all heard similar things.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're a scumbag doesn't necessarily mean that you're a liar about everything, right? So
I'm not a liar. Is that what you're saying?
We all understand that Michael Avenatti is someone who's not afraid of trying to grab as much spotlight as he can, and he's basically a slime ball. But that doesn't necessarily that doesn't mean you have to discount every claim that he makes and say that it's not true. Remember they did that. Remember with Jose Canseco? Yeah, with Jose Canseco, everyone was just talking smack, saying how you can't believe anything he says because he's a cheater. Some of the stuff that Jose Canseco ended up saying turned out to be true. So,
but here's the thing:
same kind of thing here.
Do you guys really care if college athletes are getting paid to go to school? Do you guys? Does it really interrupt your sleep or interrupt your day?
No.
If college guys are getting paid under the table or getting some benefit or their families getting paid, like at the end of the day, none of this really matters. It doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things to regular people.
In the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. All I'm simply saying is that I think UNLV has something to worry about. That's all.
I wouldn't go that far. I'll just say this. At the end of the day, this is going to continue to happen. It's just another situation, but it's ridiculous how much attention is getting brought to something. It really is.
You're absolutely right. Unfortunately, the hour goes by very, very fast. Chris Wynn, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. Always appreciate it. Jameson Welsh from Drive Time Sports. Great job, guys, in just discussing what is the new UNLV coach. And I guess, am I a guy glass half full, half empty? I don't know. Maybe half empty. I don't know. Call it what it is. But I appreciate you guys coming on as always. Always do a great job for us. Coming up next, former UNLV athletic director Jim Livengood. What does he think of this hire? What does he think of all this? We will talk to Jim coming up next on the other side of the break. You are listening to the Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN.